Today we'll be talking about Immanuel Kant and Hegel. They're two giants of modern philosophy. Let's talk about what they were important for and what contributions they made to philosophy. First, Immanuel Kant. Kant is famously known for his Copernican revolution in philosophy. Prior to Kant, it was generally accepted that our knowledge must conform to the objects that we're trying to understand. However, Kant proposed a revolutionary idea. Perhaps it is the objects that must conform to our knowledge. This shift is the essence of Kant's Copernican revolution. Kant argued that our minds actively structure our experience of the world, and thus our knowledge is limited to the phenomena, or the world as it appears to us. This view challenged the traditional understanding of reality and knowledge, creating a seismic shift in philosophical thought. In the realm of ethics, Kant developed the concept of the categorical imperative, which is the principle that requires individuals to act according to those maxims that they could will to be universal law. Kant's ethical framework is deontological, meaning it is rule-based and duty-oriented rather than consequentialist, which means focused on outcomes. Kant proposed that moral laws apply universally, regardless of the consequences. The morality of an action is determined by its accordance with rational principles, not by its results. Now, Kant's religious views are encapsulated in his concept of religion within the limits of reason alone. He argued that genuine religion is not about ritualistic observance or adherence to dogmas, but about leading a morally good life. Kant posited that God's existence, while not empirically provable, can be accepted as a postulate of practical reason necessary for moral thought. Hegel, on the other hand, is known for his dialectical philosophy, also known as dialectical idealism or dialectical logic. This philosophy proposes that the evolution of ideas occurs through a dialectical process consisting of a thesis, an initial proposition, and an antithesis, a reaction that contradicts or negates the first thesis. And then there's a synthesis, which is the outcome of this conflict between the thesis and the antithesis. This process, according to Hegel, represents the unfolding of absolute truth or reality. Hegel's understanding of Geist, often translated as mind, spirit, or absolute spirit, is central to his philosophy. For Hegel, the absolute spirit is the ultimate reality that manifests itself in the world and human history. It is a process rather than a static entity that goes through a self-realization process. This process involves the absolute spirit objectifying itself in nature and human institutions, becoming alienated from itself, and eventually recognizing itself in its objectified form, achieving self-knowledge and freedom. This concept is crucial in Hegel's philosophy of history, where he views historical developments as the self-realization process of the absolute spirit. So to sum things up, both Kant and Hegel profoundly shaped the landscape of modern philosophy. Hegel's Copernican revolution, his ethics of categorical imperative, and his religion within the bounds of reason alone have had a lasting impact on philosophy. So to sum, what did Kant and Hegel do? Well, they were both profoundly important to the landscape of modern philosophy. Kant, with his Copernican revolution, his ethic of categorical imperative, and his religion within the bounds of reason alone, have had a lasting impact on epistemology, ethics, and the philosophy of religion. Hegel, on the other hand, is also important because of his dialectical philosophy, his concept of Geist. Hegel is also important because of his dialectical philosophy, his concept of Geist, which has significantly influenced various fields, including the philosophy of history, political philosophy, and metaphysics. But despite, there are different contributions, both of these philosophers share a deep commitment to understand the nature of reality and morality, which, to sum things up, what have we learned? Kant is pretty important because he shapes. So to sum things up, Kant and Hegel are pretty important in terms of modern philosophy. Kant with his Copernican revolution in philosophy, his ethics of categorical imperative, and his religion within the bounds of reason are pretty important to epistemology, ethics, and religion. Hegel, on the other hand, is also important for what he did in dialectical philosophy, the thesis and antithesis and synthesis, and his concept of the Geist, which has a lot of lasting impacts on philosophy, politics, history, and metaphysics. Despite their differing contributions, both Kant and Hegel have had a profound impact on modern philosophy, and we'll see how views have changed as we move into postmodern philosophy.